Okay, this is going to be really quick and really dirty, but hopefully it's mainly just for beginners to be able to make a quick little scene and then fly something through it on a path. And try to do that all in 15 minutes or so. So here we go. Um, Boxes, I'm going to use boxes for buildings. Okay, I'm just using boxes and drawing everything on my top plane, so I know they're all going to be sitting right on the ground that I drew, which is itself just a box. Of course, this is going to look a lot better if you put some time into the city, but we're doing something in a hurry. And there it is. There's my city. You can see it in this view. Now I want to fly through it on a path. So probably first thing is, what am I going to fly through it? Let's make a really quick vehicle. So we'll create, I'll start with a box. And I'm going to zoom in on that box. Let's see, how am I going to do this? I can go ahead and name it. Let's call it vehicle, and let's hide everything else but it. So we'll go to hide unselected, and we'll zoom extends all. Okay, that's this far button on the right. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to work in my user view. So I'm going to go to Views, User, or just type U, and maximize this viewport, and right click this one and say I want to see edged faces. No, I'm going to hold off on that. I want you to see this for those who haven't seen it before. You can go in and modify this number of segments, but I'm not seeing those segments, am I? So if I right click on User here, I can go to Views. No, I can just go to Edged Faces, and I can see those segments. Let me go ahead and show you that. See, so we can break this thing into little pieces, and that'll help us to model things. So let's do that. Something like this, and again, I'm shooting for real simplicity here. So maybe one more that way, and call that good. Now I'm going to right click this object and convert it to an editable poly. Okay, now that it's an editable poly, I'm going to look at it from the front. Okay, that's what it looks like from the front. Actually, I'll go to 4 viewports so you can see this better. From the front, I'm going to go to, I'm in editable poly, and I can click on the plus sign here and go to vertex, or I can go grab vertices right here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to flatten this thing down a little bit. Because I want these to be wings, and I want a belly on this thing. So yeah, the whole thing needs to be brought down a little bit. So what I'm going to do is grab all these vertices, and just notice that ignore backfacing is not turned on here. Okay, so I'm going to go to my move tool. All these vertices are selected. I'm going to pull them down a little bit, and maybe I'll nudge these over a little bit too, something like that. And otherwise the shape is pretty good for a flying vehicle, so I might leave that. But I want a wing on it, so in the top view I'll grab these last few vertices and just pull that back. So all this area here, let me just grab polygons here, all that area is going to be wing area. In fact, this is my wing right here. Maybe. Or maybe that'll be my wing. Now how I'm going to make my wings is I will use a feature. Well, there's a lot of ways I could do it. I'm going to keep it simple for now. I'm going to use an extrude. I'm going to click on the little settings button next to extrude and just drag it out however far, and maybe not too far. There's a hinge feature I can use that's really nice for this also, but I'm going to say OK to this. And I can also rotate this selected area out. So I can do that. Or I can move it. While it's selected, I can do a lot of things with it. And I'm just going to work on one side of this thing, and I'll show you how to do symmetry in a minute. So if you can do things on one side, you can do things on the other side, but with symmetry I can speed up the process. But we'll get into that in a second. For now, I'm just looking at vertices, and I want to move this vertex over a little bit. In fact, I want to zoom in on this to see this better. Now I'm going to have some issues if I do that. Maybe I'll grab all these. Now here, grabbing these three vertices with my implied selected window is a good place to turn on ignore backfacing. Otherwise, I might grab some vertices in the back. Let's say I do this. I'll just grab all these vertices and I'll go ahead and move them over. And everything looks fine, except look at that. I grabbed a vertex on the back without realizing it. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. And right now I'm rotating, by the way, by using my Alt button and my middle mouse button. Kind of a nice way to rotate. Anyway, I've grabbed these three vertices, but I'm turning on ignore backfacing so it doesn't grab anything on the back. And we'll just drag these in a little bit, give a little point to this vehicle, whatever it is, could be a jet. And I want to pull it down a little bit. See these vertices? I'm going to grab all those and just pull those down a little bit. And probably the nose of this thing should come down a little bit. How's that looking? You got to keep turning it around to make sure you didn't screw something up. And I'm going to take this top part and just extrude that out a little bit. And that'll be like the cockpit. And now that that's extruded out, I can hit OK and scale it in the X only to do that kind of thing. Or scale a little bit in the Y axis by grabbing and dragging along this Y axis. And that looks okay. And I know this needs a lot of work, but the main thing about this is I want to show how something follows a path. So let me go ahead and finish this. Now, if I want to add a symmetry modifier to this to make it look the same on both sides, here's how I'm going to have to do it. Here's how I can do it. I'm going to go to my, how do I want to do this? I'll go to Modify. I'm in Modify. I'll go to, I'm in Vertex Subobject mode, and what I'm looking for is a planar cut. I'm not sure where I went. I got to make sure I got to activate these vertices to see it. And then I'm going to go down to Slice Plane. Slice Plane. This is a plane, watch as I move it around, which will slice vertices through your part as if it was like a plane that could cut. Now the thing I want to do is slice it vertically this way. So I'm going to have to rotate this plane. Problem is, if I start to rotate it, it's going to be some weird angle like 92 degrees, and it's going to cut through at a slight angle. So what I like to do always is keep the angle snap toggle turned on. Now there's a default setting of 5 degrees on that, which is pretty good for most situations. So now I'm going to use my rotate button. I'm going to rotate around, see the red circle there? That is going to let me rotate around my x-axis. I'm going to go till it says 90 degrees down here, just below my cursor, right there, see? 90 degrees, not 95, 90. And now I'm going to use the Move tool and use the Y-axis here and just drag over until I go right about in the middle of that. Close enough for whatever you want. And then I'll hit Slice. Slice. Then I'll turn off my slice plane because I'm done. Now you can see the slice I've made. Now I'm going to go to my top view. And I'm going to turn on shading so you can see this easier. So I'll right click on the top view and say Smooth plus Highlights, and I want to see edged faces. Now I'm going to go to Polygon Subobject mode, which looks like this. And I'm going to grab all these polygons that are within this implied window, which I'm getting by pressing and dragging with my left mouse button. But it's grabbing more than what I had included in my window. And that's because I have this window crossing set to crossing. let's go to just window. And we grab everything within the box is now selected. Depending on the situation, one can be better than the other. I just want to look underneath it and make sure I'm getting everything I want. Oh, I'm not. Why? Because I have ignore backfacing turned on. So it's ignoring the stuff on the bottom. Not a good idea. So I'm going to turn off ignore backfacing, go back to my top view, grab it again, everything inside the box, spin it around, yep, everything looks good, hit the delete key and it's all gone. Leaves me with half of an object. Here's what I'm going to do with that half. I'm going to go into Edge subobject mode, and I could grab the whole thing or I could grab one of these edges. As long as something's selected, I'm clear to go back to this. I'm going to stay in Modify, but on the Modify list there is a down arrow. I'm going to click that and come down to Symmetry. There's Symmetry right there. And it's using Symmetry, but it's mirroring it the wrong way. So I've got to try the Y axis. Well, that gives me exactly nothing. What about the Z axis? Not exactly what I want. What about the Y axis with a flip? That's what I want. And we're going to weld every vertex together that's within 0.1 of our current units. So, or 0.1 or comma 1, depending on if you're in the US or in Europe, or Great Britain or whatever. So we're going to say that that's good. I'm going to take that default and see what it looks like. Okay, it's okay. What I like to do once the thing's been finalized is maybe save it, but I'm going to collapse this symmetry modifier now. So I'm going to right click the symmetry modifier and say collapse all. And it's warning me. I'll say, yeah, hold a copy and collapse it. So what I've got is a much simpler file now. And now this is something I can fly along my path. So I've got a ship, admittedly very clumsy looking. Let's go to our unhide all. I'm right clicking on this area on the stage. Okay, actually just clicking on any object, and I'm going to say unhide all and go back to my 4 views, and maybe user view would be better. We'll see. Let's zoom extents on all these views. And let's position our ship wherever we want it. I'm going to position it outside the city here and move it up a little bit. And now I'm ready to make my path. So I'll go to my top view. It's a good view to do that. Actually, this will be our top view. And I'm going to go to wireframe. Wireframe tends to work better for this kind of thing. And I'm going to maximize the view. And I'll turn off the grid so it's easier to look at. And I'll start drawing a path. So I'll go to shapes. Draw, instead of 3D objects, geometry, I'll go to shapes. And I'm going to draw with a line. And the kind of line I want to use, I'm going to change the color of it to be really bright so you guys can see it. And I'm going to use smooth drag type. So you'll see some nice smooth curves for making our object fly along a path. So press, or just click release, and when I do a press drag, it gives me a nice smooth curve. But you got to be careful. You want very smooth action on your ship, usually. And I'm just going to kind of come in and out of these things with no real plan because I'm just doing something for you guys. So, and I'll keep it real simple so we can get into some other stuff before I run out of time. Okay, I'm going to go along that path. Let's take a look at that path though. It's way down low, so I'm going to bring it up. And I'll right click to get into this viewport and just pull that up a little bit so it's at building height. And now I'm going to put this plane, or this ship, whatever it is, on this path. So here's how I'll do it. Let's maximize the view, turn off the grid, and we're putting this ship on this path. Actually, this ship's pretty big to fly through this tiny city. So why don't I scale it down a little bit? So to scale something down, I can use my scale button and choose this inside shape, triangle type shape, which will grab every axis and plane at the same time and scale it down uniformly. If I want it a little bit longer, I can scale it along the XY plane, or actually the X-axis would be probably smarter. Okay, you get the idea? A little bit smaller ship now. All right, let's put it on the path. So what I'll do is select the ship. Usually I'll just use my select tool and select the ship, and I'll go to Animation, Constraints, Path Constraint, and pick a path. Okay, now it's on the path. Let's see what it looks like if we drag our time slider. It follows the path pretty good, but it doesn't follow the path as far as turning. What I want it to do is turn when the path turns. So I'll do that by, is the object still selected? Yes. I'll go to modify, well actually I think I might be able to do it right here if I remember right. Yeah. We should be in the modify panel. No, we're in the motion panel, fourth panel over. It looks like a little wheel. It put us there automatically when we put this thing on a path. And I want it to follow. So let's go to frame 58 or whatever and click follow. It's following it, but it went the wrong way. So I'm going to say flip the axis. See the axis here? Flip that axis. And now it's following the right way. And anything else? You may need to change it to Y or Z depending on how you built your object. For mine, X worked fine. And now let's see what it's like if we just run it. Okay. What I'll do next time is put a camera behind it and make it bank a little bit, and maybe some other stuff, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this one right now.